So the runner-up to Jeffrey Epstein's horrific crimes was convicted right at the end of 2021. Ghislaine Maxwell now faces a maximum of 65 years in prison for such crimes as conspiracy to commit sex trafficking and sex trafficking of an individual under 18. Her lawyers have expressed plans to appeal the verdict, which I'm sure is going to be a whole other fucking thing. And gee, I guess now that she's in jail, that just about settles everything. Clapping my hands as to dust them off after a job well done. Case closed. No more need to look into this. Now let's go to our trial expert, Alan Dershowitz, for more analysis.
I think the most important thing, particularly for British lawyers, is that the government was very careful who it used as witnesses. It did not use as a witness the woman who accused Prince Andrew, accused me, accused many other people, because the government didn't believe she was telling the truth. In fact, she, Virginia Giuffre, was mentioned in the trial as somebody who brought young people to Epstein for him to abuse.
Thanks, Alan. Great point about how the woman who specifically accused you of rape via Epstein's sex trafficking wasn't used as a witness, but also was implemented as someone who aided him, and that somehow absolves you from suspicion. Also, I'm now being told that we didn't personally get Alan Dershowitz for this show, but rather it was a clip from the BBC who made the absolutely maybe not very wise decision to feature him on their trial coverage. Anywho, I believe I was saying that the case has been closed on the massive pedophilia ring that has implicated scores of extremely famous and powerful people, including but not limited to Bill Clinton, Donald Trump, Prince Andrew, Bill Gates, and Chris Tucker. Last one less powerful, although he does have Jackie Chan's ear and can presumably have anyone beaten up with whatever you have lying around the house. Or wait, maybe the case isn't closed? Wild idea, but perhaps there's more to this story about the powerful sex trafficker who was found dead in his prison cell. It's just, it's a little bit fishy, I guess. Going back to how a lot of these sex criminals seem to be leveraging legal loopholes instead of contesting their innocence. We're seeing the same thing with people like Prince Andrew, who both denies allegations against him by Epstein accuser Virginia Giuffre, while at the same time doing everything they can to avoid an actual court case. Like, if Prince Andrew was innocent, you'd think he wouldn't need to try and use a 2009 settlement agreement with Epstein to absolve himself from liability. Sure, weird to say I'm innocent, but also, as an aside, this legal loophole prevents me from being held accountable in the event that I'm not actually innocent, which I totally am. I don't know, man. Seems like you did a sex crime. Seems like this massive sex trafficking ring must have had some customers, right? And while I'm sure not everyone he associated with is guilty, at least some of them definitely are. And yet I can't help but to feel like we're never going to actually know who. Or rather, we do know who in many cases, but it won't go further than that, justice-wise. You might be thinking that Maxwell's conviction somehow sets her up to point fingers at others. But as I mentioned before, her lawyers plan to appeal the charges, which you can't do if you offer up knowledge of criminal wrongdoing. She is, as of now, still claiming her innocence and not taking any plea deals. Not to mention that legal experts seem to think that had there been enough evidence to convict any of Epstein's clients, the US would have done that already. Hopefully, maybe, probably, I don't know. In short, this is probably as good as it gets in terms of finding justice. A monster dead in jail, another monster probably going to jail, maybe, but their monster clients, not so much. The worst they'll probably see is more people knowing what they've probably definitely done, despite no material consequences coming their way. That is, unless some of these powerful people involved get implicated in additional crimes along the way. Like, say, if one of them was extremely bad and obvious at doing crimes and amassed hundreds of lawsuits and accusations, well, then you'd imagine those crimes would eventually catch up with them, especially if they briefly became the president of the United States and was also really bad at that before losing the re-election and then throwing a fit and lightly pushing for a coup. Hey, thanks for watching that clip. Here's the evergreen end plate to ask you to like and subscribe. It's any day of the year where you are.